Welcome, my friends. Today is the 25th of August, and it's a beautiful day. We just happen to be in Weaver Park at the girls' softball field, up above the old the Little League field, and it's a beautiful shady spot. I kind of have recollections of here. I think the DeRosa family would get a lot of credit for building this park here, because I remember, I think I volunteered for a few weekends when we worked here. But the first thing I like to do is talk, since it was just over on Saturday, was the Blues for Veterans. And we got a couple of minute tape that Brian, our boss, Brian Oled, took there Saturday afternoon. And he did such a wonderful job. He did such a wonderful job taking the little clip of what was going on down there. He won the guitar that's sitting next to me. We may all have to take lessons and be at the Council for the Social Concern next year. We'll all be pecking away at the guitar. So you want to go with that now? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go.
At the station when I heard that whistle blow. You know I thought it was a streamline, oh, but it was a piano. That I don't know.
Now, how about that for on-the-spot entertainment? If you weren't having an opportunity to go down to the Blues for Veterans, you could go next year, but that's a pretty good idea of what was going on early in the day. Now, I got to stop saying now. I keep saying now when I change the subject. It's a kind of a silly thing to do, but I do it all the time. Now, Labor Day is catching up with us next weekend. So everybody will be traveling on the road, so be careful. And of course, school starts in the middle of next week also. So that means the kids going to kindergarten and first grade will be walking up and down the street, so you got to be a little bit more careful. We're not going to be on the air next Monday because it's a holiday, but we'll be here Tuesday, and we'll be reminding everybody about when school is going to start. So now, let's as soon as I say don't do that anymore, I do it right away. So Mrs. Ahern leaves me this list, as I say, every week, and so we'll go right through it. The mayor says water meter installation is on schedule. I think I'll agree with them there because I had an opportunity to have Mike Raymond, the alderman from Ward 6, in for a half an hour or 3/4 of an hour last week, and he was very satisfied with I believe he was very satisfied with what was going on with the installation of the water meters in Ward 6. So then him and the mayor are pretty much on the same page. I think he said that if he had any concerns relative to the water meters, it was they're little like weird questions. If you had a two-family house and it was an older house and you converted it into 2 condos, now do you have to have 2 water lines, or how would that work? Maybe they put in 2 meters in the cellar somehow, and then the water goes to one apartment, the other person doesn't get charged. But that'll be easily worked out without any problems at all. There's a lot of information last week relative to the building of the new elementary school, so I kind of gathered those things together, and we'll kind of go through that later on in the program. Both sides of the casino debate get ready for new campaigns. Now, since we got an opportunity to going to have to vote on casinos on the ballot in the election, so now we're going to be inundated with pieces of mail, TV, and then we'll get New Hampshire ads in the Boston market, because the ads are bought here, and then New Hampshire and Massachusetts TV is pretty much the same. You want to take a picture of that? This is the guitar that Brian won at the. I should have mentioned that a minute ago. Brian, we bought some tickets and made a contribution to the Blues for Veterans, and he happened to win it. It's perfect. It's been signed. I don't know anything about guitars, but it's been signed by all the bands that were there. There are the leaders of the bands and all that stuff. And it looks pretty fancy to me. It got all the knobs and buttons and all that stuff on it. So I'm sure one of his children will have a great time playing with that, unless he locks it in an ice box someplace and takes it out 50 years from now and says it might be worth a lot of money. I'm not sure. But that's my guess for today, honey. Nice talking to you. So back to the casinos. Vote no. Vote no on the casinos. Why? The Globe today comes out, the mayor of Everett, he's another bad guy. They got him there. All the women in Everett are working donut shops or running the back room every time he comes in the place. So, not a very nice person, and not very nice people have been around the casino authorization committee, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm saying let's vote no and get them, if they want to have casinos, start over. As far as I can see, they're closing them down in Atlantic City, so I don't know why we're building them, but if they want them, vote yes, and if you don't, vote no. I recommend to the gang, vote no. Orange leaf. If you know what orange leaf is, pat yourself on the back, because it's a yogurt situation. It's going into Minnesota's corner store at High Street, across from Roma's bakery there, and they're going to have a yogurt store there. And then as everybody who knows, it goes to the bank, it goes around High Street, it's a shortcut uptown. There's a pole where he parked cars out in the back, Mr. Minnesota and Mrs. Minnesota. And I think that pole is going to interfere with their redoing the building there. So they're going to move the pole. No big deal. The License Commission had some business before them this week, and one of them was the wine bunker, which was over in Cummings Park, is transferring their license to some other company. I guess they sold the business, and now it's being reconsidered because it was sent to Boston, because the state of the city of licensing people in Boston or the state have to approve all licenses, liquor license transfers, and they sent it back and said, take another look at it. So this is all about lawyers, so we don't get involved in that too much. Until the lawyers are finished, then they'll just send you a little sentence instead of 35,000 pages on what they think is the law. In one of the letters to the editor, Office of Robert DiNapoli issued a thank you to the citizens of the city of Woburn, signed by Robert DiNapoli, retired Woburn Police Department. My own personal opinion is I think Robert DiNapoli, retired Woburn police officer, has said thank you 1,000 times. Every time I see him, he says, hey, thanks. Thanks for everything you've done. What'd I do? I didn't do anything. I think he deserves a thank you. I think he deserves what he got. I think he's a nice guy. And I think now it's time to forget the thank yous and get on with the baseball, because his team hasn't been doing too well. I want him to get better players. So, Bob, get out there and do the baseball. And forget all this other stuff and try and stay as healthy as long as you can. The Hurl Lyman project consultant, Mr. Cieda, was at the meeting the other day, and he doesn't like one of the construction methods. There's two methods. A general contractor comes in with a price, and he's already got the prices from the plumbers and electricians and all that kind of stuff. I don't know which one that's called. And then the other one is the general contractor just comes in with a price, and he doesn't say anything about the general contractor. He tells them what to do and how much they're going to get paid. And what happens is, if they come up short, some of the general contractors, then there's a big lawsuit, which happened when they were building the high school. The original company that started to build the high school went out of business. We all remember that. And then they had to come in, some other company had to come in and finish the job. And then everybody's suing everybody because any changes and all that kind of stuff. So it gets real complicated. But they didn't vote on it, and I think it probably takes a little bit more study to have somebody like me. I don't know who would look at it, the superintendent of public works or the city engineer. He's got 3 or 4 engineers. I don't know if they all look at it and then decide which way they'd like to go, because I think it's 50-50, but I'm not sure of that either. So we'll check that off to see what happens there next time. A mixed-use proposal at the Woburn Armory. So they had to have an executive session at the council meeting and discuss the demolition of the armory, which they took that paper back. It was so close to getting done. I wish they did rip it down, but they're not going to. So now they took it back. So now, of course, the reason they had to take it back is because the Woburn Armory owner is now changed his mind, and he's going to put in 18 condos and this and that and the other thing. Who knows what? I don't know what. But it's common sense now. He bought the building, what, 4 or 5 years ago. All of a sudden, we go into a recession. There's no money. There's no money. The neighbors are up in arms. They don't want this. They don't want that. So he's trying to build a nice facility there. But meanwhile, the recession's going in the tank. He couldn't be able to sell them, blah, blah, blah. So he goes back to Somerville, and he sits tight. Now, this is what happens when people who have money, let's see how I say it, people who have money get involved in these projects, because they can afford to sit through the good times, the bad times, the good times, the bad times, and only operate when times are good. So I can guarantee you right now that somewhere along the line he has determined that the economy is getting better. And I think you can look at that. I think the Brian Melanson Seaver project in North Woburn, if you look at the real estate transactions that are in the paper, in a lot of papers every week, they're in there every week, and you see that they're selling them pretty good up there in North Woburn. So he says, well, it's time for me to get back in the game, and he's going to come to Woburn and decide what he's going to do with the armory. It's too bad we didn't get to tear it down before. But everybody convinces me, everybody I say, they say, oh no, it's a great building, blah, blah. I say, I want to see what the front looks like. When I drive from Green Street, when I come downtown, from Green Street up through town, and go by a beautiful church, and everybody's doing their property over there on Main Street, looking good. And now you come to the Armory. I want to see what it's going to look like. It's going to be such a beautiful building, the front of it, because it's an armory. All right, so we'll see. We'll see, but that's the idea. When the money is there, the projects get going. Is the end there for Market Basket, Mr. Zahern writes. Is the end there for Market Basket? No, it's not near the end, because people who have millions of dollars, who are part of the DeMoulis family, and their extraneous in-laws and people like that who the daughters have married, their name's not DeMoulis anymore, but the sons, there's a bunch of, they're all millionaires. So what they do is they go to the beach and they tell their lawyers, don't do anything, just starve those people. And they don't care about the customers, they don't care about the vendors, they don't care about anything. The board of directors, according to articles I've read in the Boston Globe, are a disgrace to people who are members of, are directors of companies that let this thing go this far. So I'm not so sure they're ever going to be happy or satisfied, or when some other company comes along. I never shopped in a Hannaford's. They're supposed to like to be one of the companies that's looking to buy it. They got a store in Melrose. I don't know whether they're, but the secret to DeMoulis is the service from the people who work there and the price of the product. You know, they'll have everything in the product as a Market Basket product. So you can go in there and it doesn't say Prince spaghetti. They sell Prince spaghetti or some other kind of spaghetti, but they sell Market Basket spaghetti. And I don't know what the difference is, but it's cheaper, so we buy it. And that's it. It's cheap. When you see people going out of DeMoulis in Woburn, which is a small store, not like the store they got in Gloucester or Chelsea, a small store, and dragging one cart full and pushing another one full and taking it out to the car, you know they're doing something right. But the people who own the store do not care. They got too much money. So that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it until they tell me it's over. I talked to one, I don't know who it was now. It could have been the representative from the 30th Middlesex District. We talked a little bit about it, and I said, what do you think about the governors getting involved? And he said, well, the governors only get involved when they're sure of what's going to happen. So if they think that the governors just jump on board, and then they'll get credit. If the thing gets resolved, then they'll get credit for solving the problem. Yeah, right. They got too much money too. They probably never go shopping. I think Deval Patrick shops at Market Basket. I don't think so. All right. The library officially announces a $9.9 million construction grant, which I'm very happy about. I think the library, after the, in my opinion again, I think the library after the school is right up the top of the list. And I think the only thing that people could argue with me over that is we're going to have to do some serious reorganization of the fire department. And those two things are coming up right up. But I think the library is now moved right up to the top of the pile. And whether the fire department catches them, I'm not so sure. Because the fire department is going to take a long time to resolve. We were very lucky in certain situations with the police department getting resolved pretty early, except they never got the helicopter that they were going to have landing on the roof down there. But I think now that this deal in Ferguson, Missouri, with all the people, all the policemen down there dressed up like they're going to war, is going to make some changes. So our SWAT teams and all that kind of stuff will probably have to come under a lot of scrutiny now with the kind of guns that they have and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, the government was giving it away. You think they're not going to take it? Of course they are. You know, whether they use it for practice or whatever they use it for. But anyway, that's the end of that story, and we'll see what happens down in Missouri. But I believe that the library is coming right to the top of the pile relative to what Scott Galvin's got on his mind. But he's coming up with a long-term situation deal where we're going to see what he's got in his mind. We have to have an overlay district for St. Joseph's Church. Though that's going to take some while. You sit down, if you lived in Woburn, say for, I'm gonna just say 25, 35 years, and you've ridden around basically all the streets, and you start thinking about all the churches that are possible candidates for being done over with condos and elderly people, veterans, disabled veterans, whatever. There's a lot of churches in the city of Woburn. I don't know how many would come under this particular law. But if they make an overlay for St. Joseph's, they'll probably have to make an overlay for all the churches. And then, who knows what's going to happen. But I'm sure they'll talk it through. Because when it's something like that, it takes a long time to get everybody on the same page. The License Commission suspended Arsenia's liquor licenses. That's across the street from the CVS downtown. It's kind of a new place, but there's been a lot of simple mistakes there. I can't go into all of them, but the person who got the license wasn't a citizen. I guess you can't get a license if you're not a citizen. And they had trouble with the building commissioner and blah blah blah. So there's some problems there, and I hope they get it straightened out, because I think their reputation is not being helped by all this controversy. And the fire department got $160,000 for critical safety gear in a grant. So somebody's writing grants down there, and that's wonderful. And that saves us from having to pay taxes on it. Now, let me spend a few minutes on the Lyman Street School. What do we call that school? The Hurl School is going to be built where? So they had a meeting, and the mayor came. And he said all the options relative to the loft seal. I don't call it the loft seal. I don't know when loft seed was there. I can't remember. But I remember the original deal with the property was they were going to try and move the flower market from Boston out there onto that site, because we were growing half the roses in the United States were being grown there. So they thought maybe it would be easier to do it out here, but that never worked. So 3 or 4 different companies went in there. Loft Seed must have been one of them. There was a rug place in there for a while. Warren Cummins was kind of like the caretaker of the property every time it became vacant. And finally the Mormon Church come along, and rather than pay taxes, they tore it down, the building. And that's why you can see half of it's hot top and half of it's just the gravel where the building was. So the mayor says he's tried everything he can with the church. Now churches, it's pretty much common sense. I think churches, they have to save enough money, and I think the Mormons have a few bucks. And when they go out there and buy a piece of property, they don't buy it to sell it. They buy it to keep it, and they're going to keep it forever. So I think the fact that we could have bought the land from the Mormon Church, even had a land swap there, was a figment of everybody's hopeful imagination, because that's where the people who are really interested in the school would like it to go. All right? So now we had 4 sites, 3 of them are gone. We're left with the farmer's market. The farmer's market is where the school is going to go. It's too bad. The 90 or 100 people who are affected by that, and the 2 women, Kathleen Leland and Diana Borden, are really upset because they think the mayor didn't keep a promise. Well, the mayor has a responsibility, I think, and I'm not speaking for them, I'm speaking for myself. The mayor has a responsibility to the other 20,000 voters in the city of Woburn. So that's what's going to happen. You know, he's going to look at it from the the big picture, and I'm sure that if he can do anything, he's going to keep that project from becoming another flood zone there, because I think basically that's the problem. I think on Marion Avenue, Frederick Drive, all those streets, some on Lyman Street, those are the people. they're afraid that when the school gets built there, their houses are going to get flooded. Now, I had Mr. Rizzo on a couple of times, and we talked about the same thing. I said, look, I believe that they paid $500,000 for this guy to come up with this plan to build a school there at the farmers market site on Wyman Street. I said I would have told them that for $25 as soon as I saw the sites, because you know, everybody who knows anything about or rode around the city, or maybe rode their bicycle around the city when they were a kid, knows that the Hurl is wet, and the farmers market was the best site. So I think this just took a lot of time, and probably makes the argument more secure that the school will go there. Now, I saw the picture in the paper, it was on the front page, where they got the school and the gymnasium located. It looks like the front of the school is going to be on Lowell Street, and then there's going to be a drive-through, and you can come out onto Lyman Street between that little puddle or pond or brook or whatever they call it, and the building. And some of the stuff, the peach trees where the jelly and the jam is going to be made from, they're going to stay. We haven't had a successful farmers market, I don't think. I could stand corrected. I should call somebody before I say that, but I don't think. I went to a farmers market in Winchester twice. Now, they have it on the Common there on Saturday morning. And I talked to Ray Drapeau, the alderman from Ward 7, and he said they have one in Lexington Center also, I think, on Saturday morning, and they're both very successful. Now, I don't know why we can't get a farmer to come over here and do the same thing over here, because I think we would support it. Maybe we wouldn't. Maybe they got proof that we wouldn't support it. So basically, I think I feel bad for the people there, but I think I would make sure, I would tell Miss Borden, Miss Kathleen Leland, that to stay right on it. Don't give up. The school will be built there, but don't give up the fact that they have to make sure that one drop of water cannot leave that property and be in your cellar. So I'd stay right on the mayor's butt, just making sure that stuff didn't happen. So next week we're going to have a guest, and for the next 3 or 4 weeks, I think we're going to start working on some of the school committee members. I think Miss, who is it? Miss Crowley is coming in next week? In 2 weeks. In 2 weeks?
Yep.
And who's coming next week? Anybody?
No one next week.
No one next week. So we'll be here Tuesday. I've got an empty chair. I'm going to get an empty chair. Maybe I get Paul to come down. He's a pretty busy guy. But anyway, that's about it. We've got 2 minutes left, and I'm not talking anymore. We'll play music for the last couple of minutes. Yeah. Let's go home, she writes on the thing. All right, now I'll be watching this at 5 o'clock, so I don't want to make a dope out of myself in the last minute. So see you next Tuesday, next time.